Hello and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. And today, as part of my interview series, I am interviewing a very brave and courageous single mother who is based in Karachi, Pakistan. And just like me, she has this passion of empowering women, of inspiring them. We decided to have this conversation so that we could normalize certain things around divorce and also so that we could inspire other women who are maybe going through divorce or maybe they are thinking about divorce or going through separation or whatever is related to that. Of course, you face many challenges while going through your process of divorce and even more in certain societies. And the idea behind this conversation was really to talk about those very sensitive topics. So to tell you a little more about Meher, she has grown between Lahore and Islamabad even though she was born in Karachi. Then she went on to study at the University of Waterloo in Canada and she majored in psychology and English literature. After having completed her studies, she joined the corporate sector in Dubai where she worked for a few years before returning back to Pakistan in 2008. And today she is based in Karachi with her two kids, a beautiful Persian cat, and she is a part-time poet. She is also a chef, and at the same time she is actually a mentor to so many courageous women. She is a certified NLP master practitioner coach, certified in timeline therapy, and also master practitioner coach in hypnotherapy. Her journey with NLP is one filled with wonders, where she found parts that awakened her soul, parts that gave her wings to achieve her goals, and also parts that helped her become the best version of herself. She is part of one of the top coaching consulting companies called Dynamic Communications, and I will leave all her contact details in the description below so that you can get in touch with her if you want to get coached, if you want to learn more about her or her story. You can definitely get in touch with her. I had an absolute pleasure talking to her, and I wish that I could talk to even more women about their experiences with divorce because I think that we can inspire each other so much. We can learn so much from each other. It was absolutely inspiring to talk to her. I have learned personally so much from her because every story of divorce is different and whatever we go through is different from person to person. And I think that the more we can have such conversations, the more we can inspire each other. I'm sure that if you are a woman who is willing to be more than that little weak person that you have been told to be, if you are a woman who wants to stand up for herself, who wants to be courageous in her life and who wants to live her life on her own terms, in that case you are going to get a lot from this conversation. So before we get started with this conversation, if you are new to my channel, welcome to my channel. I am Sadaf and I make videos to inspire and empower women. I'm also a single mother of two kids, and I think that it's extremely important for us to empower each other. And on this channel I share my own journey of personal development along with some tips around goal setting, habits, confidence building and all such things that we all need somewhere. So if you are interested in these topics, subscribe to my channel, and now let's get started with this conversation. Okay, hi Meher.
Hi, Sadaf.
How are you
How are
today?
you? Good. Good.
Great.
How are you doing?
I'm good too. Thank you. And thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you for
So,
having me and inviting me over.
well, I'm happy to have you, and let's talk about this topic, which carries so much stigma, and that's so difficult to talk about for so many people. And it's very kind and very brave of you to come out and talk about it. So let's have this discussion. And
Absolutely.
first of all, I would like to ask you about the guilt and shame that is associated with divorce, and especially in certain communities, in certain cultural backgrounds. How would you recommend women to deal with this guilt and shame related to divorce?
Very good question. I think unfortunately, in my opinion, the conditioning around our society regarding divorce carries a lot of shame. The word carries a lot of shame, and that in turn is associated with the individual being put into a mind frame of being guilty of leaving a household or leaving a partner who may or may not have been providing them or that the individual or the children with the essentials of everyday life. Um, and I think that is that's what holds that the whole story together, in my opinion. For someone who had gone through divorce and struggled through that time period, I think the guilt arose from people who were around me and not within. The shame was initiated with perhaps the environment around me and not within. So I think one of the key, uh, probably the key points to remember would be that the shame and guilt is all from outside. It's external, and it has nothing to do with the internal individual. And that recognition, that awareness helped me sort of sweep through those moments where I felt all of those. It is important to recognize and also be aware that the society, that the culture around us is very conditioned to believe that a woman holds the most importance or is best when married or in a household with a male individual being the partner, providing that woman with everyday necessities and amenities or whatever it is that individual or the children may or may not require. Whether or not the woman is working is a separate topic and a subject altogether. But I think in our society, in our culture, that is what holds the importance, and thus the shame and the guilt kind of externally sweeps in the minute a woman tries or to separate or is separated or divorced eventually.
Yeah, it is. So, how did you manage to keep that separate from your own internal? Because that's a challenge in itself, when you are being told all these
Absolutely.
things and you are being like, they make you feel like there is something wrong with
Absolutely.
you through their looks, through their behaviors, and through isolating you, or, doing using different techniques to actually make you feel bad about yourself. So, how
Absolutely.
did you manage to deal with all of that?
Um, for me, it was prior to the separation. Um, I was, I think I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to work on myself before leaving my marriage and before leaving my partner. And that is what helped me, if not 100%, perhaps a little bit, to sort of help me with the shame and the guilt and the trauma that is around the word divorce. Um, whether it was people's gestures or whether it was changing relationships between friends, family, whether it was isolation through family members who were not able to understand if this is exactly what I wanted to do or move forward with. Um, One of the most important things for me at that moment was my ability to stay connected to myself, and that I worked on continuously. Even before I made the attempt uh, to decide that I would like to move out of that home, the home that I built,
Yeah,
with my
okay.
partner and my children, or for my children, and we all built it together. Um, it is not easy to have that space. It is challenging. It is difficult. I'm easily able to talk about it at this moment because a lot of time has passed, and I recognize that too. If you were to ask me a few years back, I probably would have had a different answer. It was a real challenging time. It was a very difficult moment for me to leave um, the institution of marriage,
Yeah.
which we all are also, we all hold very close ties to it emotionally and culturally. And we're conditioned to believe that that is the most important thing for us. Everybody has a different opinion about marriage and the institution of marriage. But this is how we've been, told to grow up, I guess. And then at the moment, I'm very well aware that my thought process has changed, my awareness has changed, uh, my ability to recognize my emotions and understand them for myself uh, has changed. My ability to recognize the internal changes that I have gone through from the time that I have divorced to now, and how the external um, aspect is has affected me during this time is also I'm able to recognize all of that. So I think for me that was it was difficult, but I kind of worked on it from in little bits. um, and during that entire time, I was very sure of what I wanted, whether or not I understood what the journey would be like in the future, or what would be the hardships, or what would be easy for me, or what awaits me in the next year or month or years or months or days. I wasn't so clear about that, but I was just very clear about what I wanted to do moving on ahead. And that also gave me a little bit of courage to step into that fearful area.
Yeah, well, that's quite admirable, because I have to say that I have personally gone through it and it's been very challenging. And just like you said, with time, you learn to connect with yourself. You learn to
Yes.
connect with that inner person that you are, how your emotions are going up, down, how you are feeling. And that's a very enriching experience, I must say. So now moving forward with this same mental torture or the mental whatever you go through on a mental level, it's extremely challenging. So do you have any tips to give to other women who are going through such phases so that they manage to go through them without losing their mind?
um one one aspect in this question, one aspect of this entire journey that I went through uh, is that I seeked help from from a marriage counselor, from a therapist, from a life coach, and that helped me tremendously in terms of understanding my relationship dynamics, in terms of understanding what I wanted in my relationship, in also understanding what a healthy relationship looks like. Perhaps many of us are not so um, aware about the dynamics of a healthy relationship. I wasn't. So I had no idea that I was living um, in 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 a great space, but in a very unhealthy way. And I think one of the tips that I would give to women who are struggling to understand whether or not divorce is something that they would like to choose is to seek help. There's no shame in asking for help. There is no shame in asking uh, for guidance from the right people, from the people who are well versed with this subject, and are able to facilitate you with certain guidelines that can make this this journey, or this um, you know move easier, or if I mean, it's obviously it's a very difficult space, it's a very mentally and physically exhausting space, and I think seeking that help is something that I would most stress on, put my I mean, I would stress that uh, a lot on that is one space I think that helped me a lot, in terms of finding ground, in terms of finding the balance, in terms of um, regulating my emotions around the trauma that I was dealing with prior and post. And And I think that and it's difficult because uh, a lot of people around us um, are not I guess okay, if that's the right word. I can't find the right word to actually be okay with asking for help. It's it's looked down upon, perhaps, if not, if I mean, I'm not able to explain to you, but I think that that's what got me, and I think that would be one of the tips that I would tell to women who are struggling, because there are many women out there who are going through almost the same thing as you are, or as we all did. Um, and once we find that out, it actually is a reassurance in the sense that we're not the only ones who've gone through it, or we're not the only ones who've had such a difficult time, or we're not the only ones who would like to get some help and move forward. And we're not the only one.
Mm,
That really is a
yeah,
reassuring bit.
absolutely.
It reassured me for sure.
It does. I think it is a great tip. Honestly, like I personally did not manage to get help as much as I needed or I would have liked to, because I got very busy, and maybe that was also my own way of running away from my emotions. It was to just keep myself as busy as I could, and
Yes.
until now. And I feel that I still do need to work on certain aspects, but that is a great tip, because if in the beginning you manage to get the right kind of help at the right time, then you manage to get out of these emotional upheavals much sooner than keeping them afterwards for years. So
Yes.
I love that tip. And what would you say about the feeling that we have within ourselves about what other people are thinking of you?
um, you know, it's a great question. What are other people thinking about you? And it reminds me of "log kya kahenge" syndrome. Uh,
Mm.
you know, "log kya kahenge" is is one of the most famous question statements in a Desi household, or in our culture. And I would say, to hell with the log. Excuse my language. But here's what I would like to say to women um, who worry about that. What would be the most important thing to do for oneself is to take care of ourselves, whether we have children or not. One, because I mean, I have two children, so I look at it like, if I'm healthy, I'm able to take care of my children in a better way. So whether or not we have children or not, but it's something to think about. It is it is okay for people to talk, because that's what they will do, and they will continue to do so for the next many years.
Yeah.
It is important to know, how would you like to live your life? How would you choose to be remembered?
Mm.
How would you choose to move forward in your life? What is it that you would like to achieve moving forward, um, as a divorced woman, or as a woman who's separated and not yet divorced? I mean, there are different phases of going through this journey. Um, so honestly, I think that would be my suggestion. Really,
Yeah.
it is important to recognize, how would you choose to live your life? How
Mm-hmm.
do you want to show up for the people who you love or you care about? How would you like to look at yourself and your journey in the next 5 years, in the next 6 months, or the next 6 years, or 10 months, or 10 years? Where would you like to see yourself? Um, and honestly, just work towards that. People around us will continue to talk. People around us will continue to look at us. People around us will continue to behave in different ways, but that's not anyone's concern. My concern is how I choose, how I would like to move forward in my life, how I would like to choose to be for all the people who I have a relationship with? How am I showing up in all of these relationships
Yeah.
for all of these people? Am I going to be drowning in the log kya kahenge syndrome, or other people's opinions about me, or will I be working towards a greater self or a healthier self mentally, physically, um, in order to move forward? That's my question to all the women who would like to think about log kya kahenge.
Yes, yes, that's beautiful, and especially that you said that regardless of whether you have kids or not, you should be the center of your own life.
Yeah.
And you should take care of yourself. So that is something that we are not taught. We are taught to take care of our parents, our brothers, our sisters, then your in-laws,
Yes.
husband, your kids. But
Yes.
when is it ever
Yes.
that you are allowed to take care of your own self? In this entire process, you somehow lose yourself. So yeah.
So, Sadaf, here I'd ask you a question. Who gives you that permission? Right? It's you yourself.
Yes.
There's no one else. There's nobody who comes out, right, and states this, that you are allowed to take care of yourself. It's yourself, because it's something that's just been happening over the years. So
Mm,
who's given that permission to you? I would say to all the women out there, give yourself that permission to love yourself. Give yourself the permission to be kind to yourself.
yeah.
Give yourself the permission to pause. Give yourself the permission to take care of your mental and physical health. One has to fill that cup of love for ourselves to be able to pour for others.
Yeah.
If ours is empty, we're really pouring out of an empty jug to other people. So the kind of relationships and the emotions around those um, empty glasses or empty jugs are also going to be quite hollow.
Yeah.
One needs to make sure that the cup that we have is filled, is brimming with love and kindness. It's overflowing so that we're able to give that to others, whether it's children, parents, siblings, our home, our partners, whether it's anybody. Um, but it has to be first us to be able to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Exactly. I totally agree. So, what about your kids? How to help them navigate through this process of divorce so that they don't get much affected, and also how to talk to them about it.
Hmm. Um, so the word affected um, makes me wonder, actually, and I would like to talk about this in terms of the children and individuals. Any change that we will go through, whether it's divorce, whether it's a separation, whether it's change of country, city, place, school, there is going to be an effect
Yeah.
that will come about um, in adults and in children. So I think the first point is to recognize that the children are going to be affected. So not dismissing that fact is one of the most important facts to remember for women, to understand that we will also be affected, our children will also be affected, our families are going to be affected, our friends are going to be affected, our parents are going to be affected. There's the effect is a ripple effect.
Yeah.
It's not just two individuals breaking apart, it's not just two individuals ending a marriage. The effects of that union breaking apart is in multiples, and is in ripples. So I think even with in terms of children, it is the acceptance. um, for me, I think I communicated very openly with both my children. They were young, they're still very young. And obviously, the communication did not have a lot of details as an adult conversation. But I did communicate from day one, and I continue to do so. Children also need to recognize that, like them, adults also go through different emotions. I don't hide my tears if I'm upset in front of my children, because they need to see that sometimes I can break down also, and that I do go through emotions. I'm not I'm not a character from a book which is going to continue to smile throughout the day through whatever is it that. So children kind of pick up on energy, children pick up on conversations, children pick up on um, little bits of words, and are also able to see and hear, and communication is is a love language for me. It is the most important love language, right? You need to communicate exactly what is it that you're feeling, and I think for me, that communication with my children really helped me through this time. It was difficult for them, it was difficult for me, no doubt. um, and there were times where I have two children, so we all three of us um, were upset. We cried, and we cried together, we laughed together. It builds that connection, and the recognition that we can be bare in front of each other, that we can allow our emotions to be felt and to be recognized, and to be heard and to be seen during those emotions is very intimate, and that helped me with my children a lot.
Wow, great. How old were they when you divorced or when you separated?
Um, my son was 10,
Mm.
was going to be 10 actually. He wasn't 10, he was some 9 years and a few months. And my daughter was 5
Okay.
and a few months. Yes.
Well, wow.
So they were young. They're
Okay.
still young. But yes. So I really had to sit down, have that eye contact, and let them know I'm also going through a change, and it may not be comfortable.
Mm.
um, it's important to talk about being in this uncomfortable space,
Mm.
or to familiarize our children or and ourselves with this fearful, uncomfortable space. To be comfortable in that, it takes time. It's not an overnight change. It's not an overnight solution. There is no overnight solution. It's an ongoing journey, and it's an ongoing journey for all of us,
Yes,
including them.
exactly. And yes, that teaches them also that life is not always perfect. There are times that are going to be low. There are times when you will be emotionally not capable of dealing with the situation, but that's how it
That's
is.
right.
And
That's
that
right.
teaches them that since the beginning, that, even your parents struggle, even you are going to struggle. This
Yes.
is how your life is going to be. So the sooner you introduce them to that, these ups and
Natural.
downs, I think that the more resilient they become also.
It's natural. These are natural feelings,
Yeah.
and the more we talk about them openly without the shame and the guilt that we were talking about earlier,
Mm.
the earlier children understand that it's not okay to shove these feelings under the carpet and hide them.
Yes.
I'd rather cry in front of my mother than hide myself in the bathroom and cry,
Mm.
because I will be understood by my mother. I will be heard by my mother. And even if no words are spoken, just having that comfort or that feeling that somebody is around,
Yeah.
to understand the pain that
Mm.
one is going through. It's painful journey, Sadaf. We
Yes.
both know that,
Yeah.
and we're not the only ones who are going through that pain. To
Mm.
recognize that there are others around us going through the same pain, perhaps in not the same pace as us.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, because that's something I learned a lot after. But well, I'm still learning.
We are always learning, and
We're always learning. We're always learning.
talking of learning, you are an NLP master coach, and
I am.
let's get to that now. I think that you have learned a lot from this course, what you learned in this NLP techniques. Let's talk about how that helped you in your healing journey, and would you recommend either a course like that or getting coached by an NLP practitioner to other women who are in such struggling situations?
Um, NLP was God sent. It was an absolutely life-changing, moment for me when I decided to actually tap into it, and it was through my life coach. It was through a coach that I was seeking guidance from. She was my trainer, um, and yes, absolutely, I think. Um, it shaped me. It continues to shape me in different ways to be the woman that I am right now. It's a journey which I share with so many people in the NLP tribe, and talking to so many different women who are going through so many different challenges, not just women but individuals, has really helped me reach where I am at the moment. Giving NLP a shot, absolutely, to women, but anything that will give women the financial independence, or a project which is their passion, or they're passionate about, or some, even if it's something small like writing a book, or painting, or starting a class, or teaching, or anything that gives them that purpose to move forward, would be fantastic for women who are going through this change in their life. NLP did wonders for me. I'm a master's life coach, and I am on this journey with so many different people from different parts of the world, and we share the stories. It's not just cathartic. It's it's um, it's a learning experience. We learn from each other. The NLP techniques, yes, we learn because that's we're practitioners. It's a training. We coach people, so obviously we'll have to go through certain modules to be able to be globally certified. But yes, if women are interested, I think that would be great. Anything. This was my passion. I'm glad I found something that I really wanted to move forward with.
Yeah.
Helping other women, or individuals understanding themselves has been therapeutic. It's been healing. It's been amazing to be
Yeah.
in that space.
Yeah, great. Like you said in the beginning, like they need to have something to look forward to, have a vision, or have some projects. And here you're saying the same related to their creativity, like use their
Yes,
creativity, use their talent, and have a
be
project that.
financially independent, because that gives
Yeah.
us the courage to move forward and to give some purpose to the
Yeah.
lives.
So would you like to share some techniques from the NLP training that you have learned and that would help women, like maybe three techniques?
um Three. I think one of the off my head, I think goal mapping. I think to to put down your goals um, on a piece of paper, and really, take that forward, to be able to jot down how you would like to see yourself, in, like I mentioned to you earlier, in 6 months, or what would you like to achieve in a year, and to have realistic goals that are achievable, goals that are, and dream big. That's
Mm,
what I tell people. That's what my trainer told me: dream big. Have the biggest dream, jot it down, and go back to your goals every single day,
yeah.
and work towards it. Smaller steps. The second advice that I would say is take smaller steps, which are chewable, chunkable. Uh, where you're able to climb the ladder in smaller steps rather than climbing high, and there's no shame in failure. There is
Yeah.
no fear in failure.
I
Uh,
learned this the hard way. I felt in everything, and then I was like, my God, this is extremely painful. And then I learned it the really hard way, but thankfully I learned it.
okay, you learned it. I sometimes still feel like I haven't learned it. I'm continuing to learn it in different ways,
Yeah.
in different projects, in different areas of my life. So I think, to step into fear is
Hmm.
what courage is all about. Courage is not the absence of fear; it's to step into it and then move forward. That would be my second advice to the women, to actually step into fear
Yeah.
and be that woman that you've always dreamed to be
Yeah.
that person that you've always wanted to be.
Hmm.
uh, you know and my third advice would be to, I believe, one of the things that also helped me was to list down all the limiting beliefs that I had about myself, and to really, you know cross them out while growing and while healing and while working on myself. Every time I would come back and I'd look at my limiting beliefs and I'd be like, what did I actually think about that? Did I actually think I was like that? Did I actually think that about myself?
Yeah.
um and then the joy I would get to scratch it all out
Yes.
was was also amazing. So, jotting down those limiting beliefs because there's nothing that's stopping us to move forward except for ourselves, really.
Yes.
We have to keep moving forward. And as long as we're doing that, as long as we're committed to our goals, as long as we're committed to moving forward, growing and healing and working on ourselves and working towards that purpose that we have desired, or that we desire,
Hmm.
is what's going to get us to that end goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. And beautifully said. Thank you so much. Okay, so Meher, what would you say about learning to live post divorce? How can we learn to live again?
Excellent question. First of all, um, it is it is a huge change to go through as an individual. Like I mentioned earlier, it is not just the separation of two individuals. It almost always, not 100% in all couples, but mostly people do go through lots of different changes in friendships, in relationships, in family, um, and to live post divorce is to live the most authentic way ever. And that I would say would be to really get to know oneself, right? It's like I said to you earlier, it's coming back to our own, to own ourselves as us, to own myself as me, as Meher. Who is Meher?
Hmm.
Who is Sadaf? Who is XYZ? um, I could give an example of myself. um, when I went through my separation, um, I I didn't know who I was. Was I a mother? Was I someone who had left a home? Was
Hmm.
I a wife now that I am not living with my partner? Am I am I just a daughter? Am I just a mother? Am I just a homemaker? Who am I? What do I like? And what do I like to do with my free time? And
My
now
God.
that I don't have to,
Yes.
look after a home, do I watch TV? Do I put a face mask on? What do I do? Do I go, on bike rides? I mean, I did everything. I think,
Hmm.
when I got separated, I think I put on face masks and I sat on a sofa for hours on end
Yeah.
and watched Netflix for the first time, because I didn't have time to watch Netflix
Yeah.
earlier.
Hmm.
I was so busy with so many different things in my life that I had busied myself with in order
Yeah.
to run away from the realities that I was facing, and to run away from the challenges that I had to go through. So Post, I think how to live is just be. I think just breathe and take a break from everything.
Mm.
Pause. Uh, that is that would be my suggestion. We
Yeah.
forget to pause. We forget to breathe. We forget to just be. We forget to just enjoy tea or coffee or whatever is it, or a meal. Recognize that. Uh, I think that, and there's no difference between post-divorce life and before. And life, it's life. It's our life, right? It's how we choose to live it. It's
Yes.
in our hands.
Yes, and I can totally relate to the fact that you completely lose your identity when you're a wife, when you're a mother, when you are doing all these things at home, and when you are by yourself, you have to think it all over again. And now, who am I? What is it, the name that I'm going to call myself, or what am I going to do with my time? And then you redefine yourself, and that should be as beautiful as you think you are. That should be aligned with who you think you are, but you have to rework that as well, and you have to make sure that you give yourself goals and a beautiful vision to your life so that you can work towards that. And to be
I
honest, yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say that I have seen people, because in general, people say that kids of such broken families are this and that. But honestly, I have seen that the kids who have divorced mothers are most of the time the most badass, who live their lives. They don't really care about what people have to say. And because they allow themselves, and they have seen that with their own parents, if their parents have done the work properly, then their kids also are not concerned by what people say, but by what the society says, and they just live. And that's inspiring. That's absolutely that's a positive point that I think that we need to look at.
I was just going to say that when you mentioned that we forget who we are when we are married, it's one of the questions that I would like to ask all the women who are struggling to identify themselves, whether they're in a marriage or not. Who told us to forget ourselves, and why would we want to forget ourselves? Our identity is our identity, whether
Mhm.
we're married, whether we're divorced. It should remain the same,
Yeah.
and we lose it ourselves
Mm.
uh, because we either become a part of a toxic cycle. We either, are part of a trauma that we're not able to take ourselves out of. We become codependent. We become people pleasers. It's very difficult for an individual to actually understand uh, when we're in such cycles, that the identity that we would like to carve for ourselves is within us. Nobody's
Yes.
stopping us, right? It's how we would like to create this identity, and how to have that as part of a healthy relationship or dynamic between two people. Very important. We can
Mhm.
have that identity as a separate identity, and yet be married, and yet have a partner, and yet enjoy that dynamic with an individual. Um, and and that's the beauty of having a healthy relationship. That's the beauty of understanding what a healthy relationship looks like, to understand that there are two individuals who are coming together
Mhm.
to make something dynamic out of those two exceptional identities.
Yeah.
And we lose that sight, you know.
Yes.
And the second point I'd like to make is that you were talking about how the children of such couples, they go out, and they don't care about what people say. I think it's not just the children, it's the individuals, and everything stems around fear, Sadaf. We
Mm.
all are fearful, right? Fear of taking a risk, fear of uh, what will XYZ say, what will, ABC think. It's all based on fear.
Mm.
And I was reading the other day there that we're only born with two fears, one of loud noises, and the other one, the fear of falling, falling
Okay.
down. And
Okay.
everything else, and every other fear that we have is all learned experience. Imagine how many things we've learned
Yeah, yeah, there are
since
plenty. My God.
yes.
Yeah,
So when we're born, we literally have two fears, just two:
yeah.
the fear of falling down and the fear of loud noises, and everything else is just a learned experience. So really, it's to step into that fear is is what is going to help us move forward, and obviously ecologically, intelligently. I'm not saying
Yes.
dive nose down in a ditch, but
Yeah, yeah, no, but it
blindly.
requires courage, right? It requires courage, and that's what differentiates people who actually go beyond their fears. They act anyway, and those who don't even try. Because, yes, it is courageous, it is brave, it's not easy.
Yes.
And about, when you live in a society, there are behaviors of other people who hurt you when you are going through a divorce. And actually, you are even more sensitive as a person when you are in
Mhm.
such a phase of your life. So, what were some of the behaviors? And I'm asking this question so that people who are around women who are divorcing or maybe who are separating, what are the behaviors that hurt such a person that maybe other people do not consider as hurtful, or they consider that as normal or whatever, but on a personal level you can feel that as something that hurts you, that triggers you?
you know um Dismissing of another person's emotions,
Mm.
dismissing another person's pain, not being able to just listen, um, and perhaps not e- perhaps not even giving unsolicited advice about how to deal with uh, a situation that they've never been in. Um, in my experience, from when I was going through it, um, I think one of the most painful experiences for me was the dismissal, the dismissing of pain and hurt and anger that I felt when I was being misunderstood, when I was um, when I wasn't able to, I guess, communicate how deeply hurt I was
Mm.
during this process. Um, and I think at that time, one just wants a person to really listen, right? And not just not even say anything. Don't even give advice. I think that's what I wanted. I'm guessing everybody has their own different experiences to share.
Mhm.
Everybody goes through a different um, way of dealing with grief
Mhm.
and pain. Mine um, was different too. So I think, yeah, that was those were the triggers for me in terms of understanding how to deal with the pain and the hurt that I
Yeah.
was going through.
Okay, but similar to the same question, what are the things that people should never do around a person who is going through divorce?
Never. I guess each situation is different, Sada. So if I were to say, one must not do this, perhaps it may not apply to a situation. It may apply to a different situation. So there's not something specific that I would like to say that one should never do this or do
Mhm.
that. But I think to take note, one it would be appreciated if one would just listen instead of um, giving advice at that time, because the individual is already under so much of pressure and turmoil in terms of uh, emotions and decisions that need to be made, that it just becomes a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
So I think just listening and giving some time and space, instead of hounding for a decision or surrounding the person with advice that may or may not work.
Mm.
Because one advice may not work for one situation, and but may work for others. So it's different for each circumstances. I don't know what women are going through everybody has a different circumstance to kind of and a battle, a very different battle to begin with. So i I wouldn't want to say something specific in this regard.
Mm. Well, I would simply say maybe jumping on conclusions related to that, whether whatever you have lived in your couple is something that was personal to you, and people don't really have an idea, even though you look at you from the outside, sometimes they can't really say, even though it feels like you are working well together, but what you are feeling inside the couple is personal to you. And if someone
Yes.
decides to divorce, despite all that, that is a decision that is personal to them. So I
Yeah.
see people jumping on conclusions very soon sometimes, and that hurts because they're like, he didn't even touch you, there was no physical violence, so how can she even think about that? There is enough money, so why is she thinking? I don't know. And what you are feeling at the inside, no matter what it is, people should not name it like that. That hurts a person when you know that you have been through so much, and the face that you have put up is something they don't see everything that is in the background, right? So
Yes. So I think I understood what you're trying to say now, I guess a lot more. Um, so the image that we portray, or the projection of a well-balanced life or a partnership that perhaps is a lot more visual for the rest of the world, is really not the case. Is that what you're trying to say? I think. And what you mean by jumping to conclusions is this is what I'm trying to understand, is when people is it when people wonder why she has left because she
yes,
had
your close
XYZ.
friends or close family friends, they will come and they're like, yeah, but you were at our place the other day and this is completely normal, why are you, this is not a reason to divorce. You can't even explain that in words what you are going through. And
So I think very good point that I think I'd like to highlight here, that unfortunately in our culture, another thing which is very difficult to explain is how certain kinds of abuse is still swept under the rug.
yeah.
There's financial abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's physical abuse, there's abuse of many sorts, which may be the cause of a marriage breaking apart. Um, and a lot of times it is very difficult to, yes, you're right, to um, describe it in words that would make it something that is understood by others. But coming back to what I was trying to say earlier also is that one doesn't need to justify that to the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to justify my position in my marriage to anyone, but to myself, and to understand, is this the kind of life that I would like to lead for the rest of my life? Is this the kind of life I would like to have with my children? Is this what I'm teaching my children?
Mm-hmm.
Are my children witnessing a healthy relationship? Are they going to have healthy relationships in their future when they are going to witness me and I'm using myself as an example, me and my partner. So those are the kind of questions that I think that one should ask themselves
Mm.
in these circumstances. Um, if we use our time and energy to let either um, others come forth and sort of project their insecurities on us, or if we use our time and energy to justify and to explain the kind of trauma that we've gone through, I think we're wasting time.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion, because everybody operates from their fearful space,
Mhm.
their projections of fear, their projection of their relationships or their life, which is why I think it's important to seek help, because then we are asking for the right tools and the right sort of guidance to help us in a situation where perhaps we're not able to think straight. And
Mm.
this is why I stress upon getting help, and asking for it, because there's no shame in that. And that's my two bits on this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And on the other hand, what were the behaviors that you appreciated from people? You were talking about having a listening ear, being there for you. So, what are the behaviors that you would encourage people to have around their family or friends or family members who are going through divorce?
To believe the person would
Mhm.
be the first advice that I would tell to that I would like to talk about when it comes to people around those who are struggling or going through a divorce. To believe the individual when he or she says that there's something that is not okay with either their value system or either their um, relationship dynamic, and that they would like to leave or get help. So just believe that person in that moment. Um, and I think that's half of the work done.
Yeah.
Because, in my opinion, most of the times we're trying to um, let the world know that we went through such a traumatic time,
Mm.
or we went through so much, or this is what happened to us, and it's very difficult to believe for others who have not seen this with their own eyes. So the visuals that they have not been able to see is very difficult to comprehend. Also, um, I would say just believe the person, listen to the person, um, and be the support that they require at that time, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional, whether it's with you know the children. I mean, there could be different sorts of support systems for different people.
Yeah.
um, so be that support,
Mm.
uh, and we go through. There have been like I say, that where I am right now is not where I started. It takes time to be here. It takes a lot of work to be here. It takes a lot of commitment and perseverance and determination to be an individual who would like to come out of a situation a certain way. So I had that belief in me. I wanted to be a certain individual. I did not want my life to end at that moment. And I wanted to pull myself out, not just for anyone else, but for myself. Wanted to find myself again, maybe stand up on my 2 feet again. And those are the things that were giving me pleasure. So believing in that individual, providing that individual support, and in I guess different ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah, great. Well, that's really admirable that you did all this work, and your kids are lucky to have a mother like that who has done her own work and who will give them this image, this idea of a person who needs to keep moving
I hope
forward and
so.
keep working on themselves. So yeah, that's great. And you
Lots.
know, for our society, as a society, we are, each one of us is responsible for creating this image of divorce that we have around us. And today we are talking about it a little more, and we are learning more about the abuse that happens in marriages and
Yes.
divorces for different reasons. So according to you, what can we do on an individual level and on a societal level to make it a more acceptable norm, or to make it something more acceptable to be divorced?
I think I'd come back to the point that you started the conversation with. To talk about it without shame and guilt is perhaps one of the most important, um, you know, um, conversations. To have these conversations without um, guilt or shame from anyone, from ourselves, from others, um, to be more aware of the kinds of abuse that one may go through in a marriage, and to um, normalize um, the concept of an independent, strong woman
Mm,
without a man.
yeah.
Uh, because in our society, um, we're conditioned to believe that a woman is of substance or is of importance if she has a man next to her, or if she's married, or if she has that title, whether it's the father, whether it's the husband, uh, whether it's the brother. So a male figure, sort of has to be um, there to give that woman some importance. And I think to normalize the concept of having a strong, independent woman would be the start of it.
Yes. How long did it take you to talk about your divorce without carrying the weight of that word?
um, it took me. I don't want to name months or years, but it took me a while. Um, and I couldn't stress more the concept of grief, Sadaf. Grieving a loss, the grief that I had of leaving a relationship or leaving a marriage or leaving a man who I have had two children with and built a home with. So the the day I think I stopped grieving the
Mm,
end was the day that I was able to talk about this, I think, without shame or guilt or of any sort. I have grieved the end of a relationship. Uh, I have grieved the end of certain relationships that were connected to that relationship. The loss of one person whose identity was connected to mine, whose whose presence was connected to mine, who shared a home with me, who I shared a home with, who I had children with. We shared dreams, we shared goals, we shared so much uh, for years, and we had plans for many years. So I think the grief that one goes through post divorce is important to be felt.
yeah.
It took me some time. It took me some time, and I'm happy that I was able to give myself that time
Mm,
and not run away from those feelings. I'm happy to say this out loud, that I gave myself the permission to cry, to grieve, to feel my emotions, and you know um, go through that motion of feeling that loss. And today I look back and talk about the best times that we've had together with my children, and I remind them of vacations that we've spent together, or of times that we've had, memories, we've built memories together. And uh and and it, it obviously has no weight on me as it may have had earlier times. So now I'm I mean, it's
That's
different.
great. That's great. Okay, one last question, Meher.
Yes.
There is a woman out there who is watching you, who is herself going through a divorce that is painful, that is emotionally devastating. She may not have financial independence. She is going through a lot of difficulty, and she is going through so much difficulty for, working on the fighting for the custody of her children, for fighting with herself over the guilt that she has to carry as a woman, because a woman carries way more guilt than a man does. What
Mhm.
are the three pieces of advice that you would give to this woman so that she feels like she is in charge, she is in control?
um Well, first of all, when we're going through such a turbulent time, we are never in control. We're not in that controlled space. I think it takes a lot of effort to be uh, in a space where we're able to think um, rationally. One advice that I would give to women who are struggling for custody or divorce is to not react and instead respond. Um, Respond to their feelings, respond to the questions that are being asked from them, the difficulties that they're facing, and they're not the only ones who are facing those. We all face them, and we continue to face them on a regular basis in different ways, in different challenges, whether it's maintenance, whether it's custody, whether it's school fee, or little pocket money, and then the things just go on. And there are people who have very difficult times with visitation rights. And I mean, there's tons of stories that I read. um, Three advice that I would give, honestly, Sadaf, uh, i I find it very difficult to pinpoint just three things. I would say that it gets better, and it's not the same always. um, and to not lose hope, and to actually visualize what they would like their life to look like,
Hmm.
um, and to work towards that. um, I had to start from scratch post my divorce, uh, for everything, for work, for you know, grounding my 2 feet, for sustainability, for financial independence, and to work for all of this while raising 2 children is not an easy job. So I'm sure there are people who have more than 2 children. I'm sure people who have difficulties in having that support system where they're able to um, not think about food or basic necessities of life. So it's just honestly, just hold on and continue taking those few steps forward without losing that hope, because it does get better. When somebody would say that to me earlier, it gets better, and I'd be like, really? Does it get better? Are you sure it's going to get better? Because certain times we do lack that, um, vision.
Yeah, the
That's
bigger
that.
picture, like we are in
Bigger
the
picture.
moment and we are caught in
Yes,
that moment.
yes. But it does get better, and it gets better for those who work towards that. That's what I believe in. It
Yes.
gets better for those who believe in themselves. It gets better for those who take those smaller steps in, and who do the do for the
Mhm.
bigger picture that they have visualized for themselves, for their children, for their lives, for their kids' lives. Um, that's my two bits on it.
Yeah, that's great
If that
because
makes
yes,
sense.
visualizing even a little bit every single day, I can definitely swear on that because that's something that I have done and I was completely losing my mind and it really helped me move forward, make progress, and especially in that moment to feel that there is hope and there is
Yes,
another life out there that is waiting for me. Just let it, give it some time.
yes, yes. And we all go through that time where we're, on the floor,
Yeah.
trying to pick ourselves up. So it's so, women who are out there, they're not the only ones. We've all gone through that time. It
Mm.
was difficult to get ourselves back up. I remember there were times that I was on the floor, uh, quite literally. Um, and when I couldn't see, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't visualize, I couldn't understand the pain and the hurt that I was going through, and I didn't have the words to explain also, to anyone.
Mm.
So really, it gets better for those who really dream to see a different version of themselves and their lives, and who choose to move forward with that dedication
Mm.
and
Mhm.
towards a direction that enables growth and
Yeah.
healing,
Yeah.
for themselves and for others.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Meher, for your time.
Thank you, Sada. Thank you so much.
So that's it. I hope that you had as much pleasure watching this interview as I had while talking to Meher. And if you want to get in touch with her, you have her details, her contact details in the description below. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you hopefully in my next video. Until then, keep excelling. Bye.